What is the ratio of moles of oxygen to moles of CO2? Well, an equation is just a mole ratio. So this is telling me that my moles of oxygen, there's a 1 in front of here, there's no numbers, so it's just 1. And CO2, there's a 2 in front of there, so my ratio is 1 to 2. So my answer would be letter C. That's a 1 to 2 ratio. Number 5 here, what's true about this? Well, again, my equation is a mole ratio. I have 1 mole of this for every 8 moles of that. That's going to produce 5 moles of this and 6 moles of that. So letter A tells me that 9 moles of reactants, because I have 1 plus 8, these are my reactants, 1 plus 8 is 9, changes into 5 plus 6. 5 plus 6 is 11. So that's A. Now we get into some stoichiometry, some conversions. So on a problem like this, my first step is to write the given. Now it's important that I write what I'm measuring, or how I'm measuring in moles, and I also need to write my chemical formula, FeO. People that really struggle leave one of these guys off. This is going to tell you what comes next, so make sure you always write both units. Alright, so I need to write down this. I always transfer my thing on the top to the thing on the bottom. Now what can I change it to? Well, moles I can change to anything, but I'm looking for aluminum. So I start with FeO. I need to change from one chemical to another. So if I change one chemical to another, I do a mole-to-mole ratio. Now to get my coefficients, my numbers that go here, I just go to the equation. For aluminum, there's a 2 in front. And for FeO, iron oxide, there's a 3 in front. I cross off my like units. Am I done? Well, I look at moles of aluminum. The question says how many moles of aluminum, so I know I'm done. And I just multiply and divide that out. So 1.2 times 2 divided by 3. Number 7 here. Again, I'm going to start by writing the given. There's my given. There's only one number most of the time, so that's easy enough. Make sure you write both units, the moles and the Fe, so I have moles of iron. Okay, so I don't want moles of iron. So, to get rid of that, I'm going to put the units down here, never the numbers, just the units. And I'm looking for moles of something else, a different chemical. So I'm going to change from moles of what I start with to moles of what I'm going to. Now my Al2O3, how many of those do I have? Well, there's no number in front, so that means it's 1. How many Fe's do I have? Well, there's 3. I just take my numbers from here. Am I done? Well, I'm going to cross off my like units. That leaves me with moles of Al2O3. The question says to calculate the moles of Al2O3, so I'm done. And I just plug that into my calculator, and I get A. I'm burning some glucose. So I'm starting again, 10 moles of oxygen. And you don't even have to remember the formula for oxygen, that it's diatomic. Just look right there, it tells me it's O2. Alright, so I don't want moles of O2. And just like always, I'm going to take my starting units, put them on the bottom. And on the top, well, I'm looking for moles of glucose. This guy right here. So I'm looking for moles of a different chemical. I can always change one chemical to another by a mole ratio. And what is that ratio? Well, I just take the numbers from here. No number in front means there's 1. And there's a 6 right here. Cross off my like units. I'm left with moles of glucose. The question says find the moles of glucose. And so I'm done. I just divide that out, and I should get that. All right, on number 9 here, I'm going to start off with my given. There's only one number, and it's important to write everything. Write the moles, write the chemical. I don't want moles of aluminum, so I always take the starting units, put them down here. Now on the top, what can I change it to? Well, my question is looking for moles of sulfuric acid. How do I know which one is sulfuric acid? Well, it's clearly not aluminum. That's aluminum sulfate, and that's hydrogen. So that leaves me with this. Acids are going to start with hydrogens, at least for us. And now I need my ratio. How many aluminums are there? What are those? 2. 2 aluminums for every 3 H2SO4s. Cross off my like units. The question says, how many moles of sulfuric acid? I'm in moles of sulfuric acid, so I can calculate 15, multiply everything on top, divide by everything on bottom. Alright, so my given, that's what I'm starting with, iron. Iron formula is just Fe, that's oxygen, that's iron oxide. So I'm going to start by writing the given. It's important to write what I'm measuring, or how I'm measuring, and what I'm measuring. My next step, I always take my given and I write it down here. On the top, what am I changing it to? Well, I'm looking for how many moles of oxygen. So moles of oxygen. I'm going to change one chemical to another. What's my ratio? Well, O2, there's 3 O2s. Fe, there's 4 of those. So it's a 3 to 4 ratio. Cross off my like units. I'm in moles of O2. The question asks, how many moles of O2? And so I just multiply across. And divide by everything on the bottom. At STP, don't worry about it. Not important for us at this time. All of our problems are going to be at STP. What are we starting with? Well, there's only one number. So 3.6 liters of O2. Make sure you put how you're measuring and what you're measuring. My second step is to always take the given and put it down there. Now what can I change liters to? Well, there's only one thing I can change liters to, and that's moles. And if I start with liters of O2, it's going to be moles of O2. What numbers go there? Well, that's something to memorize. 1 mole of any gas has a volume of 22.4 liters. Memorize. I'm going to cross off my like units. Am I done? Well, I'm in moles of O2. Actually, I'm not. I'm in 3.6 liters of hydrogen. Okay, that's not going to change our problem at this point. So let me go back and fix that. I underlined it right there. So liters of hydrogen. Now I don't want hydrogen. I want liters of oxygen. So now I'm going to change my chemical. So I don't want moles of H2. I do want oxygen. Okay, for real this time. So to change from one chemical to another, That's a mole-to-mole ratio. How do I know it's O2? It tells me right there. H2 tells me right there. Plus, you should have those diatomics memorized. All right, what's the ratio? O2, no number in front, so that means it's 1. H2, there's no number in front, so that means it's 2. Cross off my like units. I'm in moles of oxygen. Am I done? Well, no, because the question asks for liters of oxygen, so I got to keep going. So I don't want moles of oxygen. I do want liters of oxygen. And this is one to memorize again, 22.4 liters per 1 mole. Alright, and you want to put all that in your calculator. Take everything on the top, divide it by everything on the bottom, and you definitely want to put that in parentheses on your calculator. And you should get 1.8. All right, number 12. What am I starting with? Well, here's my given, 11.5 grams of nitrogen dioxide. Di means 2, so 2 O's. So I don't want grams of this stuff, because I know I'm changing it into something else. So I'm going to take my starting units, put it down there. I never transfer the number, just the units. What can I change grams to? There's only one thing I can change grams to, and that's moles. And it's always the same chemical. It's always 1 mole. And my mass, I take my formula, I have 1 nitrogen, 2 oxygens. That's my formula. Go to my periodic table, I look up nitrogen. And I go to my periodic table and I look up oxygen. And I add them together. That's my molar mass. My mass of 1 mole. Cross off my units that are the same. Alright, so I'm in moles of NO2. So now I have to think, am I done? Well, what am I looking for? Grams. I'm not in grams. And oxygen. Now, I'm not in oxygen. So I got to get out of the chemical I'm in and into the chemical I want. So I'm going to transfer the chemical I'm in and move into the chemical I want. The only way I can go from one chemical to another is a mole-to-mole ratio. So NO2, there's a 4 in front of it. O2, no number, so that means there's a 1. That's my mole-to-mole ratio, which comes from my equation. Alright, so I'm in moles of O2. So I'm in the right chemical of what I want now, but I'm not in the right units. So I got to do another one. So I'm going to take my unit here, transfer it down there. What can I change moles to? I can change it to grams. And if I'm in moles of O2, I have to go to grams of O2. Grams to mole is always 1 mole. And the grams, well, I have 2 oxygens. I look up oxygen on the periodic table. So it's 32 grams per mole. That's the molar mass. I'm going to cross off my like units. And then I'm done. And in my calculator, I'll do this times this, divided by the bottom, and I'm going to end up with letter B.